Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to Utility Sports. Today, we're going to be doing a Cleveland Browns team mock draft specifically focused on just the Cleveland Browns here. We've done a couple of these on the channel, so if there is a specific team you would like us to focus on in a team mock draft, let us know right now in the comment section below. Also, we are doing a free jersey giveaway of a Trevor Lawrence black Jacksonville Jaguars jersey. All you have to do to be entered in that is leave a comment on today's video and also hit that subscribe button. You guys have been absolutely killing it in the support lately of Utility Sports. We really appreciate it. And now let's jump into today's video, focusing on the Cleveland Browns. We are going to do a 4-round mock draft here for Cleveland. And they had a lot to build off of last season. Last season was a really good year for them. They had to deal with some injuries. And now we're seeing the board kind of play out here. Farley actually goes 5th. We haven't had an offensive lineman go. Actually, Sewell went 3rd, but we have not seen Rashawn Slater go quite yet. Mac Jones does go 12. We also have a first-round mock draft on the channel. We'll have a card for that right here if this is something you guys are interested in. But now focusing on the Cleveland Browns, there's 2 different ways I could look at this team going in the first round. One of it being the edge position, looking to really get someone who's going to be impactful at that spot. Or the other option is going with a linebacker, someone who's going to be really impactful there. I think that those are the 2 key spots that the Browns need to look in the first round. Now looking at who's gone off the board, Owusu Koromoa is gone, Micah Parsons is gone. Those are the 2 top linebackers in my opinion. So now at this point, it's kind of narrowed itself down to Jalen Phillips, Azeez Ojulari, Gregory Rousseau, and Zaven Collins to me. Those are the top 4 players available at this point in terms of fit for the Cleveland Browns. I do think Christian Barmore would be a good acquisition. However, I see the Browns probably going on days 2 or 3 at that interior defensive line position and more focused on a true edge at this point or possibly a linebacker. I do really like Zaven Collins. I think that he could bring a lot to this Browns team. He was so impactful for Tulsa this past year. For those of you who don't know, Tulsa had one of its best seasons actually in recent years, and Zaven Collins was a big reason why. They ended up being a ranked team by the end of the year nationally, and they were very, very successful. Without Zaven Collins there, that team would not have been at that level. However, we also have guys like Jalen Phillips here, who is a real late riser when it comes to what his draft stock is. 2 years ago, people weren't looking at this guy as a top 2 or 3 round pick. But this year, with the absence of Gregory Rousseau at Miami, he was given the opportunity to play, and he played at a very high level, both in the pass game as a pass rusher and in the run game as a guy who can get off blocks. He can get off blocks, get into the backfield. He had, I believe, about 14 or 15 tackles for loss there at Miami. He was very impactful. And he's actually going to be the guy I opt for at this point, Jalen Phillips out of Miami. I think that is so important to get an edge opposite Myles Garrett. And I get it. You guys already have a good pass rush. But if you bring in another edge to replace Olivier Vernon, who had a serious injury, not only are you improving your other edge position, but you're also going to improve Myles Garrett's production because there's going to be less times that he can see a double team consistently, and giving Myles Garrett more opportunities to man-on-man pass blocking assignments is going to be a real problem for other teams. There's not a guy in the NFL, I believe, that can block Myles Garrett one-on-one consistently, and getting an edge opposite of him will open that up for him to have more opportunities to really get after the quarterback and impact the run game as well. Now at pick 59, we've already grabbed our edge here, and I'm actually so happy with how the board's fallen. I was a little nervous about this, but Jabril Cox is still here. He is the surefire pick for me now at this point. He is a great pass coverage linebacker there out of LSU. He is the steady staple on that defense for the LSU Tigers, and at this point, grabbing him at 59, I know we needed a safety, but grabbing that linebacker, my front 7 is looking much improved at this point, grabbing Jalen Phillips. And then also Jabril Cox. I'm feeling very good about what I did. I think he can fit in perfectly into that defense as a guy who's going to be impactful in the pass game and also can impact the run game. I think that there's a lot of upside for him. And really knowing what we saw out of Kevin Stefanski, what he notices from Minnesota, his tenure there, he wants some of that to translate over to Cleveland. He's brought some of that success that Minnesota's had in recent years with him. And a big thing about Minnesota's defense was they had great linebacker play in Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr. He's going to want to emulate that as best he can. Jabril Cox, very reminiscent of Eric Kendricks in a lot of ways, especially in the pass game defensively as a linebacker. He's going to be a guy who can cover tight ends consistently, can move with running backs. I think he's going to be great in zone coverage defensively and also great in man-to-man coverage as a corner. I think he's the perfect fit there for the Cleveland Browns. And now at pick 89, we're looking at how do we address some of these other key positional needs at this point for the Browns, and how do we get them back into the playoffs next year. They had such a great year. We want to continue to build off that. Shaun Wade is here. That is an interesting pick for me at this point. I know they have Greedy Williams. I know they have Denzel Ward. Both of those guys, young, promising players. But I think Shaun Wade could fit in really nice. I think he's more of a true slot corner. Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward, both outside corners. You get a lot of versatility bringing in Shaun Wade here. I think that is a real possibility at this point. He was a guy who was arguably going to be a top 15 pick before the year started. Had he opted out, he might have still been a first-round selection. Now at pick 89, you're getting a really high upside pick here if you do opt to go in that direction. I also want to take one look at the interior defensive line. I would really like to improve that area of this football team. I think Sheldon and Marvin Wilson are both good options, but we do have a pick here, 2 picks away, so I might just wait on that position a little bit here. Let's go to that cornerback room. Paulson Adebo still here. Israel Mukuamu is a guy who we can maybe grab later into the 4th round. But at this point, I'm feeling really good about what I am seeing on the board for the Cleveland Browns. And one other position I would really love to look at is wide receiver. I think that there is a lot of upside still left on this board here. Seth Williams being one guy I really like. Daz Newsome, I think that he's got a little bit of potential in the NFL. And also Shi Smith, for those of you who watch the channel, you know I like Shi Smith. I think that he's going to give a lot to an NFL team out of the slot. Rashad Higgins wants to be back as a Cleveland Brown. Will he? That's yet to be seen. They haven't given him an official offer yet at this point. I think that he would love to return. I'm not sure if the Browns see him as a long-term answer, though, out wide. And also, we don't really know what they look like with Odell Beckham Jr. back in the fold, if he's going to be traded, what the whole situation is with him. So I think that is an interesting thing to monitor. But at this point, I am actually going to opt for Shaun Wade. They stay in state here, grab the Ohio State product. And I think he's a great asset for them to be grabbing here at pick 89. We could also take one quick look at the offensive line. I know this isn't as pressing of a need. They've done a really great job addressing that. That's a key reason on why the Cleveland Browns were in the playoffs last year. Their offensive line played great. They really put money into it in free agency. They also spent a draft pick last year on it in Jedrick Wills. They made all the right decisions, and I'm expecting them to continue to make the right decisions with head coach Kevin Stefanski there. They've been absolutely killing the game lately in terms of their decision-making come draft night and many other areas as well. Now at this point, with what is still left on the board, I think safety is a really big need as well. And there's a couple guys here that I really like. Andre Cisco and Paris Ford being the two of them. I think Andre Cisco out of Syracuse is the stronger option at this point, though. Syracuse had a really good, impactful secondary this year. They have a couple corners that are worth drafting and 2 safeties that are worth drafting. And I think that they're going to build this up. And looking at Cleveland's end of things, I think that they badly need to address safety. They have 34-year-old Andrew Sendejo starting. They also had made a move for 29-year-old Ronnie Harrison. And I just don't see those 2 guys really being long-term options there for Cleveland. Yes, I know that they have Grant Delpit. I think he's a great option for them long-term. I'm hoping he comes back fully healthy from that injury he sustained. But at this point, them being able to grab a safety here who's going to have starting potential in the NFL, I think that's a really good grab at that point of the draft at pick 91. Now at pick 110, we're back on the board. Paris Ford is still here. That is an interesting selection to me still at this point, even though we did grab a safety, because then that way you double down on it. For sure, find one guy who's going to be a high-quality player. Running back, less of a need. Wide receiver, this is where we could really look at Shi Smith possibly. I know that his ranking on here isn't that high, but this happens every year on draft day. There's guys who go way before they are expected and some guys who fall way past when they're expected. That's just how it is. Each GM is making their own analysis. They're making their own picks on who they think is going to be really worth grabbing at this point. But at 110, I'm not feeling great about any of the offensive positions besides wide receiver. I do think interior defensive line is still worth looking at. Marvin Wilson, I really like that. But I would be very surprised if the Cleveland Browns spent 5 picks in a row on that defense. At this point, they've already spent 4. I think that is the area they need to improve most is the defensive side of the ball. Baker Mayfield played so well. I think that they're going to ride that offense a little bit longer, but I think that they are going to look for at least one position player on offense to improve what they're offering, and I think that's going to be Shi Smith here out of South Carolina. I really like what he brings. I think he fits into Cleveland's offense. He's a guy who can get off the line quick, gives you some run after the catch potential. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be ready to be a day one starter, but I think he can come in and be impactful at that area. We see Tyler Sheldon go here. That's a little unfortunate. I was hoping he would fall to us at pick 132. Marvin Wilson also goes. Okay, so the interior defensive line has thinned out a little bit, but we got the receiver that I wanted. I felt very good about grabbing him there at that point. I think that's really where his true talent's going to be. I think he's maybe even a little bit higher of an overall player. Darius Stills is still here out of West Virginia. I do like what he could bring for us at the defensive line. I also think looking at a running back here does make a little bit of sense, in the sense that, you get a little bit of team control on a guy. Kareem Hunt, I know he signed his extension, but Nick Chubb's also going to be a free agent at one of these points. Bringing in a rookie running back gives you a little bit of leverage in contract talks and gives you some versatility too in case of injury. Nick Chubb's been a little injury prone. Not that I believe that's, he's kind of been freak injuries more than anything, but I do think that it is interesting to have some value in the backup position here. I think Trey Sermon staying in Ohio would be an interesting spot. Chuba Hubbard as well. He could have possibly been the first running back off the board in this class had he been more productive in his season, or had he opted out. There was a lot of thought that he could be a top running back in this class. He just didn't really play like it this year for Oklahoma State, but I think he would be on Cleveland's radar here. Also looking back at that interior defensive line spot, I think that those are really the two spots that they're going to look to go now at this point, is either go running back for some depth or go into that interior defensive line. And at this point, I think that the interior defensive line is just too big of a need. Darius Stills is the selection here at this point. And I'm feeling really good about what I was able to grab here for the Cleveland Browns. I think that they absolutely killed this draft. I think that they're in a very good position to add a lot of talent around what they already have. I trust that Kevin Stefanski is going to make a lot of the right decisions. And one of those being grabbing that edge round one and then coming back with Jabril Cox round two. I think Jabril Cox is going to be a great player in the NFL, actually. And looking at this here, I think this is a really great draft for the Cleveland Browns. They grabbed Jalen Phillips at pick 26, Jabril Cox at pick 59, Shaun Wade at pick 89. There's high potential there, and I think that's a really good grab. Pick 91, this coming with Andre Cisco here, another member of the secondary. I think that's going to be a key part for them, getting younger in that secondary, getting better, but also they've impacted all three levels of that defense. They got a defensive lineman in Jalen Phillips, someone who's going to impact the run game and the pass game. Jabril Cox, who's really good in the pass game. Shaun Wade, who's going to be really good out of the slot. Andre Cisco, who's a solid safety. And then they come back, grab a weapon for Baker Mayfield, someone who I think is a little slept on in this class, in Shi Smith. And then Darius Stills at pick 132 to kind of give you some beef up front, fill out that interior defensive line a little bit better. I think that there's a chance he grows into a starting level player in the NFL as well. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this mock draft. Let me know who you could see the Cleveland Browns drafting. And don't forget about the jersey giveaway, guys. Hit that subscribe button if you are new to Utility Sports. We have absolutely loved all the support you guys have given us, and we'll catch you in the very next video.